how I turned this into this. This is my DIY slatted wall feature. It was actually surprisingly easy to put together, so I'm gonna show you exactly how I made it, along with my built-in bar area shelves in this whole section. But if you wanna skip ahead just to the slatted wall, go to about the 5-minute mark. All right, so this house has this very strange pop-out that we just weren't totally sure what to do with. I started calling it the marshmallow because it sticks out and has these rounded corners, and it does have this cool kind of nook on the inside. So obviously it could be used as a bar. So not only did I want to build shelves here and flesh this out as a bar, I wanted the front to be a really distinct feature. So it didn't just look like a weird extension of these walls. It could be its own unique thing that really stood out to you and really had some wow factor as soon as you walked in the front door. So as always, I started in Photoshop to really lock in the exact design to get a good sense of what I wanted to do. Side note, in the future, maybe in this sort of inset shelf area, I might continue these wood slats, but we'll see. Before we get to the fun stuff, first thing I did was replace this faucet with something a little simpler. I went with the matte black. This is a 4-inch faucet. There's a link in the description to this one. And you don't have to be a plumber to replace these things. They're very simple. You just follow the instructions and attach the hoses, and it can really transform the look of a space. Alright, so I painted the whole pop-out black, although this wasn't actually jet black. This was the next notch up. It was called Dark Secret. I just used a small roller for most of these flat surfaces, and you do have to use 2 coats if you're doing something so drastic. But as always, for the edges, I just went with my steady hand and a nice brush. So the only part of this paint job that didn't already have a built-in line that distinguished the black from the white was this spot right here. So I just sort of invented my own line and used this nice frog masking tape and painted the black on very lightly, and when it was nice and dry, I peeled it off and it worked really good. I was getting too excited about mapping out these wood slats, so I used some scrap pieces I had to figure out the spacing, and I ended up deciding on 1.5-inch wood slats with a 1/2-inch space. Once I was happy with this mock-up, I went back to painting the edges by hand and the rest with the roller. Don't forget, 2 coats. So I do already have this cocktail set, which I've featured on my Amazon Lives before, and it's matte black and everything, but I decided it was time for a fresh set, so I went with this really classy chrome set. I installed this wooden floating shelf here, which looks really nice. It's super easy to install. This is actually a set of 2. You might remember in my previous video, I installed one in the guest bathroom. I also got a 3-pack on Amazon of these cool wooden towel hangers. 2 of them went in the guest bath and then 1 went here. So that kind of finished off my little bar area to hang the towel on. Alright, so it's time to map out all the lumber I needed to buy, and the crazy thing is that this pop-out is 8 feet tall, and these wood slats come in exactly 8-foot segments, so I really lucked out there. Since I knew how wide one slat and one space would be, it was really easy to figure out how many I needed to go across the entire width of this wall. While I was at it, I also bought a bunch of 2x6s and 2x10s for some of the other built-ins that I was doing around the house, and for the inside of the bar, which I knew was going to be 2 shelves, so I just measured this width really carefully. Alright, so it was time to buy the lumber. I picked out all the different sizes and widths that I needed for the built-ins all around the house. Plus I found these individual slats that, like I said, were already the right height for what I needed, so that was great. So side note, even though I decided to use these pre-cut slats, you could save some money by just using a piece of finished plywood and then cutting the slats yourself. That's what Simply Aligned Home did on their YouTube channel. But if you don't have a table saw like I don't, you can actually buy this guide that attaches to any standard circular saw to accomplish the same thing for a lot cheaper. So I actually had bought this a while back thinking that this is how I would do my slatted walls, but then I just got lazy and ended up splurging for these pre-cut slats. But I think this is a really cool tool. I'm excited to use it in the future. Alright, so I measured out my 2 shelves and I labeled them. Then I cut them with my circular saw. Now I should point out here that I had to measure extra carefully because the 2 sides of both of these shelves weren't exactly right angles, just for some reason the way the little nook in the house was built, so I had to accommodate for that. I sanded down the rough edges. So then I had all my pieces cut to the right size, including some for the other rooms, which you'll see in some upcoming videos. Alright, so this is one of my favorite new things ever. I finally bought one. It's a pocket hole jig, meaning that it's a little guide that makes these hidden holes. So it comes with this special drill bit that fits right in here, nice and snug, and it makes this perfect angled hole just to the right spot, so that way when you attach it to the wall later, you can put the screw right through here and attach this to the wall without really seeing screws or brackets or anything holding the shelf up. I stained all of the wood. This is my favorite color right now. It's called Provincial by Minwax. So I got these 2 shelves measured out. They're nice and level. That way now I could just drill these screws right through these little hidden holes right into the side walls here. So you can see the difference between shelves like this that already have a surface to attach to on either side versus the floating shelves, which I splurged a little bit buying that 2-pack because this is completely freestanding and that is a little trickier to do. But these shelves are simpler and you can save money because I use the raw wood and the pocket holes. So that takes care of the inside of the bar. Now I can finish off the slat feature on the other side. So I've got my 16 pieces all laid out, ready to go. I just need to sand them down. This is not only for all of the sharp corners and splinters, but also for any markings that need to be removed. And then I stained all of them with Provincial, the same color. It took a while to do all of them, but I only had to do 3 sides of each, not the back. Even though I tried to pick out the straightest pieces possible, these really just never come perfectly straight. They're always going to have a little bit of a warp or a bend to them, so I knew that that was something I'd just have to deal with once I'm actually nailing them into place. And then it was time to install them. I just nailed them on one by one using a nail gun, and Priscilla helped me hold them into place as I just kind of nailed from the top to the bottom. I made this little 1/2-inch wedge ahead of time so I could use it as a spacer so that I could get a consistent width every single time. Some of them I'd put one nail in at the top and then we'd really have to push them into place and keep nailing and pushing as we worked our way down. I sat this little piece of scrap wood along the top so I could always make sure that the tops were aligned. To make sure the edges were lined up just right, I started with the left side and worked my way in, and then I switched to the right side and worked my way in. That way I could stop in the middle and measure to make sure I was still on track to have consistent widths and make any last minute adjustments if I needed to. The last piece went up, and then I got myself a finished wall. Alright, in the next video I'm going to show you the full finished music lounge and a few of the other finished rooms.